Recent findings indicated that businesses with less than 200 employees lose an average of $2.5 million each, global, due to cyber threats. And Nigerian SMEs are currently highly subjected to cyber attacks. This, of course, necessitates an understanding of the most serious cybersecurity threats facing businesses in Nigeria, as well as strategies for mitigating them. Joining me in this episode of ICAN on Air today, in trying to break this down to simple expressions, is Dr. Greg Ezeilo FCA, a mathematician, a systems engineer, and a system security expert, amongst other expertise that he has been able to gather and in his career. We are going to unveil more about our techie guests very shortly. And of course, in this episode, we share some social diary. And I'd like our online audience to please take very critical note of some of the adverts that we expect you to come on ICAN. There are adverts references. Please take notes of them. Where this Institute of Chartered Accountants, our old charter, new chapter, will take you and your products to the nooks and crannies of our globe to put you on a value add. Stay connected. We shall soon be back. You're welcome back. May I quickly add that our online audience can field their questions. Please put it in the question box and we will attend to them. Dr. Greg Ezeilo, may I bid you welcome. I was introducing you just a few minutes ago that you have all the degrees that you can gather in terms of data, cybersecurity, and what have you. And because we have amongst our audience situations where we will be asking you to break this down into basic understanding for us, I'd like to now start by asking you, educate us, what's data protection and cybersecurity? What is this all about?
Okay, Akin, thank you very much for having me on this program.
You're welcome.
I am sure that our team members of the Institute and our friends and well-wishers hooked on this program. Let me start on the of commendation. This is quite innovative and also revolutionary that our institute is breaking the bounds, I should say, breaking the bounds, being in the cloud, being in the sky, being in the air, everywhere is ICAN. So I'm glad to, well, by way of reincarnation, be part of ICAN again, many times to come. Now, I'm sure that when you park your car somewhere, you either use a key to lock your car or use a remote to press a button and the car locks, isn't it?
Correct.
Why do you do that?
To secure.
You drive your car into somewhere, those area boys there, and then perhaps you place a label. I mean, that's banner that people now want to carry. You place it by back on the screen. It says "Angels on Guard," and you drive a car full, and you wait into the teeming environment of area boys, and then you leave your car there without locking it because Angels on Guard. I believe you me, but how you return back to that place, you see the car again. The angels are no longer on guard, which tells you that security is part of our existence from time. So, and when you now have all of us living in the wires, when I mean living in the wires, our life is now conducted via the cyberspace. It becomes very crucial and demanding that my identity is not suddenly stolen by somebody else.
Right. Okay.
No matter how careful you are, and I say it again, there's no system that has a foolproof security. The only thing you pray for is don't let the bad guys remember where you are. Remember you. And they decide to deal with you, it's a matter of time. They'll break you down. So data security, cybersecurity or data protection is not only necessary, but also it gives us that confidence that that we are not exposed. I can, you see, for example, so many people are not able to tell how old they are in the public. They are conscious of the fact that I don't want people to know. Let alone when you now have a profile of yourself that is now being kept in a certain format that only those who have the ability, they live in the comfort zone. Let me use that word. They live in the comfort zone. Those who live in that comfort zone, we have the skill and ability to penetrate that environment and then unravel or even steal your person and use it to also conduct activities that could also be negative or positive, benefit them positively, benefiting you negatively. So, by and large, and in a nutshell, data protection is important. It's as important as you lock your door of your house when you're leaving the house to ensure that no intruder gets into your house to do some lifting, or you park your car and lock your car and ensure that no intruder gets into your car to remove some valuables. It's as simple as that.
Excellent, Dr. Ezeilo. Excellent points in general terms. Good control. Talking about businesses now, what will you consider to be the principles to be considered in data protection? The principles.
Well, security generally, in the systems balance, there are three concerns that businesses will be bothered with, and individuals too: availability, confidentiality, and of course, integrity. Now, a lot of tools are there that if they use it to get into your data environment, integrity suggests that your data or whatever information you have in your system environment remains what it is, no matter the time, no matter the age, no matter the place. Now, availability says, my concerns are if I leave my data somewhere, can I come back and meet it where I kept it? That is these two major concerns. Then, of course, if businesses run their operations and all of that, and they are not comfortable or they're not certain that the data, especially their customer data or their company data and all of that, has a level of integrity that can be rest assured that, look, nothing changes even if heaven breaks. Or that I come back here, I meet my data where I kept it. Of course, availability is assured, integrity is also assured, and all of so businesses must be concerned about all these critical features of your information or data. And these are the three principles that we work with when we're talking about data or information security in an environment of business.
Excellent point. Integrity, availability,
and confidentiality.
And confidentiality. Yes. Of course. Then, I mean, that's
I'm moving data from point A to point B, and that data is meant for you, Akin, that nobody, whoever is, intervenes in that process of moving
to do any distortion. Yeah,
and distort it.
And so there won't be distortion. I mean, that sets the stage that, well, of course, corporate entities must try and make sure they protect and secure their data. Exactly. I said that is buried. Now, Dr. Ezeilo, since this is now the live wire of corporate entities, may I ask you, whose responsibility is it to protect corporate data? Is it the board? Is it the management? Or is it the IT department?
This is a very interesting question, and it borders on responsibility. But again, not to be misplaced, I am an investor. I invest in a company, and then suddenly there's an incident. We try to differentiate between accident and incidents. Incidents suggest premeditation with an intention to do harm, whereas accident occurs without any premeditation and intent to do harm. Now, if I'm an investor, I invested in Bank ABC, and tomorrow an issue occurs, and the board, the investors gather and say, look, we're going to sue the board for not being able to handle or protect the business from failing because of this incident. And the board said, oh no, they will have an IT head who is heading the IT department. If you are an investor, will you listen to that such an explanation from the MD? No, you won't. You are holding the board or the MD responsible. So it is only left for the MD and the board to ensure that Chief Information Officer or Chief Security Officer of the company does his job very well, not to expose him to the owners of the business. So if he doesn't exercise that oversight, then he is in soup. And there are records that show that 40% of organizations that suffer from some kind of incident or disaster go down for good. And the board are always for being unable to protect the businesses from failing or suffering any kind of. And there are some regulations all over the world, US, Canada, UK, and in Nigeria, we also have got one regulation that also becomes punitive if you are a business owner, which we're not called data controller right now, and you are unable to ensure that my own profile with your company, either a bank or insurance or hospital or whatever, is not properly protected, you are punitive. There's going to be some hammer coming back down to the company itself, the owners of that company. So it's as good as that.
Excellent point, Dr. Ezeilo. So, I mean, clearly from what you have said, it's a governance issue and it has to be taken down the line. Well, considering the importance of data protection to corporate survival, I'd like to ask this. Does Nigeria have any data protection law? Do we?
Straight to that question, no. But we have a regulation by NIDA. And by extension, NIDA Act suffices as a law because a law has set up NIDA to be able to develop frameworks, principles, strategies for a safe computing environment. Let me put it simply, safe computing environment in the Nigerian cyberspace. So, and as of 2 years ago, 2019, NIDA has taken a bold step to develop a compendium of do's and don'ts in it that is associated with data protection, which of course you know is called NIDA's Data Protection Regulation.
All right.
And the companies who fail to comply with the requirements of that regulation for filing audit reports by June 30th this year are already on the line for firing.
Very interesting. I think something just flashed on the screen now. Emmanuel is asking you, Doctor, please, how can one become ethical hacker? I just now remember that you have a certification in hacking studies, huh?
Correct? Yeah, I did. I have. You see, Emmanuel is like you want to say how do you want to become a father of a child? You need to go through the process of being a father, physiology and all of that, psychology. So if you want to be an ethical hacker, and I love the fact that you use the word ethical hacker, because there are 4 classes of hackers. Okay, you have the gray hat, the white hat, the suicide hackers, and the black hat. The black hats are not ethical, but the white hat are ethical. So it takes some process of study, meticulous study, and the effort on your own part to go through the course modules and then be able to write the exams. You write some trying exams, and if you pass those exams at the level that EC Council in the US recognize that you have met that standard, you become an ethical, and you have a license. So that's the first step. You go to the next step of CHFI, and then you apply for license, and then you can be given a license to now be an ethical hacker. And then, of course, you know what that means. It's also a burden of responsibility on you that you are never to do bad anymore as far as concerned. So you are your own responsibility to protect your organization, your clients, and those whom you discover that they have been under a threat.
Super. And then somebody just asked from the YouTube channel,
National Information Development Agency.
And what does it do?
Yes, these are, like I mentioned a while ago, they have the responsibility to push Nigeria into the cyberspace by way of frameworks, by way of principles, by way of regulations, by way of anything that has to do with technology development in Nigeria is in the hands of NIDA. And that's why, based on their responsibilities, they have raised the first regulation that has to drive data protection in the Nigerian environment. So all kinds of, in fact, if you go through that regulation, you'll be happy with what they have done, because it's all encompassing, and also went even deeper to make recommendations with what organizations should do in cybersecurity. They listed both encryption, firewalls, and I was happy when I was reading that regulation. It was quite encompassing. So you can't be a chief security officer in an organization without having to come to terms with the recommendations of that regulation. So I'm proud of that, as a matter of fact.
Thanks for that explanation. Let's get and dig a little bit deeper in on regulation. Of course, we talked about the 2019 regulation, and so from what NIDA have done, there are guidelines for data protection. Yes, just give us a brief insight into some of these salient guidelines.
Okay. To the point, NIDA, I think that regulation has about 4 parts. Okay. The last part has to do with mediation. That is, if there are offenses, if there are violations of those regulations, what processes do you need to take to address it? For example, if I've been violated, by my privacy has been invaded by a data controller, who, very often you walk into a shop, for example, and when you walk into a shop, you do some shopping, and sometimes before you leave, they ask you, can I have your telephone number? And I often ask them, why do you have that? Why do you want my telephone number? And sometimes they'll say, we just want to don't keep in touch. Not because I don't want to give, because you, the data controller, may not have what it requires to give adequate protection to my data privacy. Because we are just in an evolving environment. Okay. Now, this regulation has specified, neat and short, what is required from organizations to file an annual data protection audit report. And if you fail to file within the stipulated time, then of course, depending on the volume of whatever you keep, from 10,000 and above, there's a particular penalty you pay. I'm not quite sure about penalty now, but if you go there, then if you have 2,000 data and below, there's a particular penalty you pay for not being able to file that report. And I tell you, NIDA has also licensed auditors who will now go about coming to organizations, ensuring that you comply with that regulation by way of filing annual report of your data protection processes. So a lot of activity going on in that area. So organizations take time to go to the website, download the regulation, and see where it concerns them. But the critical point there is, how do you know who are your data subjects? I have somebody who is in the oil company say, now that my company is an oil company and we have a few staff and all of that, and then of course said, what constitutes my data subject? I said, look, you have your company, you have your employee role. You say yes, okay. Do you have vendors? You say yes. Do you have customers? You said yes. Do you have banks? You said yes. Do you have you say yes? I said, and all these you keep profile about. They say yes. So you see, your data service is expanding beyond your internal environment, because most of the time you keep profile of your vendors, those who interface with you on a daily basis, who you keep their profile in your environment, because you need to know who qualifies, who do not qualify, by what statistics, by what credentials, by all of that comes in as a profile of the vendor. Then those who also talk about services, those who keep their profile of these customers. In fact, setting up an accounting software to start with, you set up your customer profile. And then this customer profile leads you into generating receivables and all of that at the end of the day, and then following them up to pay. So there's a whole lot of complex environment with data warehousing.
Interesting.
So you don't just look at yourself as an individual data subject. You have intermediaries, you have interfacing, you have every nook and cranny. You have, okay, now most of us here, you have your ATM, you have your MTN telephone. You don't have about 5 of them. Then go to the passport office. You have your profile there. Go to road safety. You have your profile there. Go to the police. Have your profile all over the place. So there's a proliferation in a plurality of environments. So, and each of those places serves as a controller. The head of that acts as a controller while you're a subject. Whereas they also, on the other part, when they are with you, they are subjects. And the leader looks at one data subject as a potential vulnerable entity that can be attacked anytime, any day.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much for those expositions. Mr. Biola was flashing something on the screen and was talking about 1% okay, he's talking about 1%, probably before tax paid by specific companies, telecoms, bank, insurance, IT, pensions, and so on and so forth. Thank you. But I'd like to quickly then get some more of understanding, more because we have students amongst us, students not necessarily for professional accountants, students generally who get into a few phrases that comes under this subject. We hear phrases like security threat, physical security, incident threats, regulation, and privacy. I'd like to ask you, Dr. Ezeilo, what are the interlinkages between these issues?
Okay, thank you, Akin. Keywords, I call them keywords, right? They're all having a handshake one way or the other along that chain of security. You have a threat, you have an exploit, then you also have a risk. Now, you have a threat when you are vulnerable. Vulnerable in the sense that there's some level of weaknesses in your environment. For example, if you are using online facilities on the internet, and then most of the time you look at the URLs you visit, they don't have that small s on the HTTPS. You are vulnerable because every transmission across that URL is exposed. It can be seen by any other third party. So you are vulnerable. And as a hacker, if I mean to do bad, what I do is I look at those URLs and see which is not properly secured. Because if I have an SO, well, I don't want to waste my time with this because I need to go to breaking encryptions and all of that and then begin to penetrate on all of that. I don't want to bother myself. But if I see the one that is just plain, oh, then I carry out what you call exploits. Exploits. That's trying to break through an environment, either secure or not secure. And so you see, once a vulnerable system has been exploited and the weaknesses has been broken and an attacker has passed through it, what then it translates to is a risk. That is, and risk translates to loss. Loss has occurred. And you need to now navigate through all that process and then have a development of what you are losing or what you have lost, and then see some remedial actions you're going to take. That takes us to what we can do to be able to stop some of these things. So every company, organization, entity that operates within the cyberspace, aside from having a desk officer that's in charge of security, you also have what you call incident response plan. That if there's a hit, where do you start from? From what point do you start to the next point, to be able to stop further occurrence and then begin an initiative of recovery from the attack, and then of course rework your apparatus, your security architecture, be able to contain further attacks on your systems.
Interesting point.
And of course,
very, very interesting point. I mean, that has covered the insider threats, physical security after your initial assessments. I like to ask you, therefore, I always hear the cliche, machines do what they need to do, okay? Motor vehicles do what they need to do. it is when you apply the human element that sometimes things begin to go wrong. So what is the place of human error in data protection and privacy?
It's a lot of insider threats that of two variants. As a matter of fact, that was where I did my doctoral research, and there's a concept, a principle known as LMX, data member exchange, and two researchers found out that you, Akin, in your organization, you have people who are working below you. You are a leader; they are working below you. They're subordinates, and that subordinate can be grouped into two perspectives: what you call the in-group members and out-group members. The out-group members are potential insiders that can become a threat to you because of the makeup of their mind, because of the idiosyncrasies, right? These people, they work for you purely on the basis of the terms of contract of employment. They resume at 8 and close at 5. You can't do anything about it. You can't call them to come to work on weekends. You can't do anything about it. So these people, if you dare to step on their personal leverages, they're going to open a ledger for you. You know, we are most of our accounts. They open a ledger for you. Akin has offended me today, and they will debit you on that ledger. We call it idiosyncrasy ledger. They're going to debit you. Then, if you do something good, after a long while, they're going to credit you. Now, over a time, they look at your ledger is lopsided on the debit side. There's what you call punitive measure. They begin to nurse grievances in their mind, and these grievances will lead them to become deviant, and it also lead them to violate security policies of the organization, and that exposes the company to external attack.
Interesting. So those controls now break down because the debits, credits, and those threats deliberately human, just to make sure at the end of the day they put you into trouble.
Exactly.
Now, let's look at risk classification in developing a data protection agency. What is your insight into this?
Well, for every organization who wants to develop either systems recovery plan, incident response, DRPs, and all of that, the starting point is risk assessments, as a matter of fact. And of course, risk simply defined either by ISO 12009 and 18 as revised, or by COSO, or by COSO. These are two frameworks we know in risk management, COSO and the ISO. Is potential of events that will occur that will now prevent you or jeopardize your ability or capacity to achieve your desired business objectives. Is that clear? And in measuring these events, talking about risk assessment now, you will develop what you call a risk space. A risk space, it works on a Cartesian coordinate, that is XY axis. If you remember that elementary mathematics, where you plot your and when you develop that, you're going to be looking at every event on the value chain of your business processes. So any event that has a potential to prevent you from achieving a business objective on that process, you plot it on that graph, on that space, as either has potential at a level of certainty, at a level of medium scale, at a level of low scale. Then its impact is also developed and also plotted against the potential occurrence period. And that gives you, boom, you have your risk space, you have your event space. Then the next thing you do is to put a line across that. The line you are putting across from top to bottom, from the left-hand point to the right-hand corner of it is what you call the risk appetite line. That is, how can you accommodate some of these events as they occur? What level of buffers do they have for them? Then use that to develop the line and plot it. So any of those points that fall across over the line, it begins to ring in your brain that, look, something must be done around this area.
Very interesting.
That line, oh, don't bother about. But if it's just a generator failure, a power failure, but to have a generator is not potential for us. Okay, but there are others that don't run on Nigerian system of power supply. Some manufacturing concerns don't run on Nigerian system of power supply because they know that this power can fail anytime, and if power fails and one machine in the chain fails, it will cause a chain effect in the production plant that can ruin the entire company.
Very interesting.
So because of that, they now take a proactive measure to make sure they don't run on that power system.
You can say that again, Dr. Greg Ezeilo. I mean, I saw a question flashed on the screen just now from YouTube, and somebody was asking, in this day that we are moving towards electronic voting, transmission of results, that is the extant discussions in the polity. What type of cyber security infrastructure is required to make this foolproof, make this possible?
I think that you are narrowing it to cyber security infrastructure, which is individually considered in your environment. Now, let me just put it this way, that Nigeria should have a cyber command. That's an infrastructure on its own.
A command center. Command center. Okay,
yes. Great. All over the world, advanced countries, America have their own. UK, Israel, Canada, they have their cyber commands. Right. Some time ago, I had an engagement with Nigerian airspace security, whatever, and I asked them, where do you have a cyber command? And the answer was not forthcoming. So I did a search, and but that was many years ago. So I'm sure by now some engagement would have made them to level up. So the very first infrastructure is for Nigeria to have a cyber command. When you call it a command center. Cyber security command center, where it has antennas all over it. Sensing the cyberspace and reporting signals on this cyber environment, and then taking proactive actions, whatever. Even if it's a bank, even if it's an insurance company, if it's a government agency, and all of that. So this cyber command is 24/7 active.
Thank you very much for those insights.
This is what I think we should have in place before we can now begin to navigate ourselves towards being safe in the cyberspace.
Excellent point, Dr. Ezeilo. I'm going to give you a little bit of a breather. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we field a few more questions. Please stay on.
create a wealth shift by unlocking the potential of the youth. We must not see the youth as risk. We must see the youth as assets.
You are welcome back, and thanks for staying the course. In the first half, we had reviewed quite a number of things from regulation, establishment, and the fact that Nigeria is still within the Community of Nations. And of course, we are growing and we are evolving. Thank you very much, Dr. Ezeilo. I also want to go back to some basic understanding of some terms. Why is the Internet of Things considered a critical concern to cybersecurity professionals?
Yeah, that's another narrative entirely that is engulfing, is also involving. Internet of Things, tell me, what is it that is a device that is not connected to the internet? The superhighway, information superhighway, is that today that's not connected to the internet? Everything. If we are going to a point right now, people call it 666 the Antichrist. I don't know about that, but some people are already planting a chip on their wrist. That this chip acts for everything. Now, I guess that's the high point of NIM, that's your national identification number card, is to be a composite device that you can use to access so many facilities, so many resources around you. Now, if you have your life, the entire life, just like you have it in Estonia, which is one of the breakaway republics of Russia, is regarded as the most wired country in Europe. And then Internet of Things suggest that everything that you use, from your home refrigerator to your TV to your car to your handsets and all of that, are driven by chips. Then why wouldn't you be concerned about cybersecurity?
Interesting. Dr. Ezeilo.
It has a relationship. And the relationship is very strongly connected upwards.
Interconnectivity is the word. And that takes me back to something that we talked about, hackers. Okay, all right. Now, as part of data protection, is there a sense in getting to hire ethical hackers? And if yes, what do you consider as the best approach to that, disaster recovery and continuity plan for an organization?
Well, I think these are two somewhat divergent but dependent issues. Now, who is an ethical hacker? Is someone who is trained in hacking. He used the same skill, the same tools as the black hat hacker. But in this case, now he's using it positively. Right. So there's a need for you to hire a hacker, ethical hacker, who developed countermeasures. Michael Comer, the author of Corporate Fraud, says if you want to catch a thief, you have to be like the thief.
Something similar to a Scud missile.
Yes. So that's it. Now, disaster recovery planning or disaster recovery plans is a reactionary process, in the sense.
Yes, I'm sure Dr. Greg Ezeilo will still be here. Somebody was trying to hack his presentation. You are welcome back. So you threw the score at that, isn't it?
Yes. So it's reactionary. Somebody says disaster recovery is an oxymoron. And why is this an oxymoron? Akin, you have that you're taken away from you. and maybe in the course of chasing the person treats into a fire and he got burned. Are you going to recover it? You're going to recover it. So it's a contradiction.
It's a contradiction.
I get you. Yes. So it's the recovery plans are in control mechanisms. You have preventive, you have protective, you have recovery. I mean, remedial. So, recovery plans is to try to restate you after you have suffered a disaster.
Okay, after suffered a loss. Okay, right.
Yes,
okay.
you have suffered a loss. So, and there are a number of models, a number of solutions coming from hot side to cold side to warm side, and of course, relationship agreement with companies that are in the same business area and all of that. But there are some debilitating factors that could hamper success otherwise of some of those solutions that you have in place.
Beautiful point, beautiful exposition, Dr. Greg Ezeilo. Accountants, we talk about cost saving to protect data and cybersecurity. And many businesses now engage in cloud computing. Give us an insight into your understanding of what cloud computing is, and is cloud computing all positives and no negatives?
But basically, it's nomenclature in the semantics. We have been in cloud computing for ages before we knew it. Akin, you have an email address, isn't it? You have an email.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And then I'm sure you have had this email before you heard the word cloud computing. Now, your email, you have this storage which keeps your mail not in your own computer, but in the computer of the host, either Yahoo, Google, American Online. Between Google, American Online, and Gmail, Google and Yahoo, they have over 600,000 servers in Chicago. And these servers keeps your profile, keeps your data. As you need them, you go there to access them. So to that extent, that's a simple illustration of cloud computing or cloud storage, because it is a third party providing you storage as a service. The other third parties providing you applications, networks, backbones as a service. Now, one beautiful benefit of that is this. I took example, the accounting solution called SAP. Prior to having it in the cloud, for you to deploy SAP, you need bundles of dollars to do that. You're going to have the hardware around you. You're going to have the modules running from 1 to 7 or more around you. You're going to have the style and all of that. And sometimes you're going to buy all this when you don't even need all of them at the same time. So you sink so much cost into deploying that facility. But now you can, SAP, Oracle, all of them have made it simple that you can now deploy only what you need online, real time, in the cloud.
I see. Interesting. I'll pause you there. I also want to quickly just ask, in cybersecurity, there is this what we call virtual private networks, call it VPN and firewalls.
Yes,
what is VPN? Yes. What role does it play in cybersecurity? And what role does firewall play in data or information security?
Now, let's take it one after the other. I can see that you are also being driven by this discussion. VPN. I want to take you to, this area. Area. In your area, you call it area. In my place, we call it Hmong. In another place, we call it Ekpo. And then, simple word is masquerade. Now, there comes covered, isn't it? It comes covered. You don't see who is inside, isn't it? Then it comes to the public and operates in the public. You don't see who is inside. Now, but the younger ones who will come out to do it in the public will have their head and they're seen. So you know them, you know, their parents will even see them and know them. But you don't see the Eyo. Eyo is an illustration of VPN.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a network that masks around the public network, so you don't even get to see the IP address of its own server, proxy server, you call it. So that way, it helps to enrich your security architecture.
Super. Unfortunately, Dr. Greg, time is just not our friend.
It's not your best friend.
And it's not always our best friend. I must ask you this question: that with the involvement of corporate entities in social media activities, what are the implications of this trend for data protection and cybersecurity in just 2 minutes?
Social media is an exploration, if I may use that expression. It's an exploration, and it's also an exposure, great exposure to businesses and companies, such that you will get attacks and attacks and attacks and attacks. You remember that some time ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the data facility of Facebook came down. Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter. Well, it's been ascribed to some internal, but you see, we security don't want to jump into conclusions unless we see the tunnel, how the tunnel looks like. Okay, so and you cannot rule out some misbehavior or deviance of internal staff or external staff causing that. It has also happened in some companies in Nigeria, which I'm not going to really talk about right now here because of other exigencies. Now,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Greg Ezeilo. We're going to have you back. I want us to just go for just a short breather, come back, we close up. Short breather, close up, and then we come back. Thanks, and please stay online. Okay, let's just quickly now round up. Now, Dr. Ezeilo, I'd like to have your last one word on all our discussions. Give us your last word here before we close.
One word: vigilance.
Vigilance. Caution, we say.
All who is in cyberspace.
Wow, fantastic. Now, I just now need to thank you very much, Dr. Greg Ezeilo, for educating us, for exposing some of these technical issues, and want to let you know that we're going to be calling on you. More and more questions have been coming. I'd like to also thank our online participants. Thanks for your very kind comments. Like I said, it's going to be ICAN, a new rebranded ICAN, Trading Knowledge Professional Institute of an old charter, new chapter. Thank you so very much, Dr. Greg Ezeilo, and we're going to call you and call you and call you again. And I'd like to say that we are going to have a repeat of our knowledge sharing on this podium. Our next edition, thank you. Our next edition is going to be on Thursday, October 28, 2021. And the time, of course, is going to be 6 p.m. West African time. Guesting will be Wole Obayomi Esquire, the head of tax in KPMG Africa. And he will be looking at another very important subject: tax administration, ease of doing business, the Tax Pro Max initiative. You don't want to ever miss that. Let me leave you with this piece from Robert Mueller, the FBI director. He made this in 2012, and I quote, "There are only two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that will be, end of quote. And as I always say and admonish, be the change that you'd like to see. I remain Akin Fatunke, your host, ICAN on Air. Bye for now.
Thank you. I can agree with you.